Rita Rosenback. Welcome to tonight's Q&A session. If you don't know me from before, I am the author of the book Bringing Up a Bilingual Child. I'm also the creator and the driving force behind the website multilingualparenting.com, and as well as Facebook group and page of the same name. I'm a family language coach. I help parents make the most of the languages they have in their family. So today, most of the questions I have that have been sent to me in advance are about raising a trilingual child. So I will group them all together, and so if any of you who have sent in the questions are on live, please listen to all the answers to all the different questions, because your situations are all very similar. I will finish with a very exciting question from Mike, which I was very happy to receive. So today's first question comes from Maria. Maria and her husband have a little boy, three months old, and I love it, Maria, that you are thinking about how to set up the languages in the family at this stage, because it's very important to think about these scenarios in when a child is small. And so you know what to do. So Maria, your main language is Russian, and your husband is speaking Egyptic Arabic, and you live in Lithuania, and your common language is English. Actually, that's already more than 3. That's 4 languages that your little son will have the advantage of growing up around. And your question is who should speak what, and will it should you choose one of the languages, and what will happen with the language that you do not speak with your son? So let's take the languages that you do have. Russian, so your native language is Russian, your husband's is Egyptic Arabic, and those you have by the sound of it, you have chosen to speak those languages with your son, and I think that's absolutely the right thing to do. Since you will be living in Lithuania, he will be learning Lithuanian later on, even if you do not speak it at home. And then you are wondering about English, because English is also an important language, and you would like your son to also learn English. So what will happen, because you speak English at home, he will pick up English as well, and quicker than you think. He will be able to understand what you and your husband speak, so you won't have the secret language very long. He may not start to speak English, because for a child to start to express him or herself in a language, there needs to be interaction. And since your plan is to have one person, one language set up, with you speaking Russian and your husband speaking Arabic, then those are the languages he would grow up speaking. So your question is, so how to also make him learn English alongside Russian and Arabic. And what you can do, since English is already in your home, what you can do is to, for example, set up 1 day a week, for example, when you only speak English in the home, also with your son, and that you read books when he's a bit older, play some games, play or once you introduce some screen time, make sure that it's only English, so you can have a variation of what it's called a time and place family language strategy where you choose a certain time or a certain place where you speak one language. So how it would work is that you speak normally always Russian, your husband would speak Arabic, and then you choose a time when you will also introduce English. And as you say, leave the Lithuanian to to daycare or school or whatever, and it because there will always be Lithuanian in his life through media, through friends, family, through the society when you go out. So he will also learn Lithuanian. So Maria, if you have any further questions, just add them in the comments. I'll be happy to pick them up. And the next question, which is also a very similar scenario but with different languages, is from Lenka. Lenka speaks Czech with her husband who speaks Spanish, and together they speak English. And they have 7-month-old twins. Again, very good that you're thinking about this in time. So you're wondering, because you live in an English speaking environment, and your common English common language is also English. So you are also wondering about the same as Maria. So who should speak what, and how do you organize it all? So you both speak your native languages. Lenka, you speak Czech. Your husband speaks Spanish, and then you can still speak English with each other, and your twins will also pick that language up slowly, and soon they will also learn it through daycare or whatever you choose for them to do. So you are also, Lenka, you are learning Spanish, so that's also good. But I usually say that if it is possible to change to one of the home languages, so in your case, Lenka, either to Czech or to Spanish, it would be good to reduce the amount of English spoken in the home, because that gives more exposure to the other languages. Because what is most important when it comes to passing on a language is how much exposure there is to the language. So a child doesn't get confused. Never worry about that. Child does not get confused with many several languages spoken in the environment, or even if a parent switches between two languages. Let's say you speak, like in your case, Lenka, you speak Czech and then you speak English with your husband. A child does not get confused. That's something you absolutely do not need to worry about. But to give as much space as possible for the minority languages, then I recommend that if it is possible to switch to one of them, like if the other parent knows enough, for example, to understand, then you can use that language more at home. If both parents understand each other's languages, what you can do is to have a conversation where when the whole family is together, when one parent speaks one language and the other one speaks a different language, it's perfectly fine to speak two different languages in one discussion. It might feel odd to start with, but language is, after all, about communication, and as long as the communication works, we are fine, and children will not get confused. I can't emphasize that enough. So that was Lenka's question. Again, Lenka, if you have any questions, just add them in the comments. I will also pick them up if you're watching a recording, so please feel free to add comments. So next question is from Helen, who is expecting. Wonderful. So I'm loving you, new parents who are thinking about this in advance, because that is actually the one most important thing to that will be kind of predicative of success. If you've thought about this in advance and planned it, then usually you are also successful. So Helen and her husband, they are expecting, and they also have many languages in the family. So Helen speaks German and English, bilingual. She's learning Spanish, and Dad is Spanish, but also fully fluent in English. Their common language is English, and the environment is also English speaking. Again, the advice is the same. Mom, Helen, you should speak German, and Dad should speak Spanish. You have the added added concern here that your husband has experienced in his own family. Just reading your message here, where his uncle was Spanish and was married to a Dutch lady, and their children ended up only understanding but not speaking Dutch. That, by the way, that is called a receptive knowledge. So you can understand but not speak, and that is not to be looked down upon, because if you have a receptive knowledge of a language, you already know a lot, and that receptive knowledge can be turned into expressive knowledge much more easily than if you were to start learning a language from scratch. I can understand your husband's concerns, because you do see this a lot, but this happens usually in families when parents haven't really put enough thought into how to make sure that there is enough exposure to both languages. Also, we need to speak a little bit about consistency, not because there is any risk of confusion, but consistency is more important the less exposure there is to a language. So the parent who gets less time with the child, and if that parent is the only person speaking a language to a child, then it is important that that parent is consistent in the use of it, and creates a routine to always speak that language with the child, because that is the best safeguard for it being automatic. I can give an example from my family, where my daughters are now adults, and we have lived in the UK for more than 20 years, but we still only speak Swedish with each other, because that's the established language that we had, and that's also stuck, and we always speak English, although we are all fluent in English, and of course switch to English if need be, if there are others present. But if it's just the three of us, then we always speak Swedish. So back to your question, Helen. You're also worried about that your husband might feel left out if you spoke German. So this is a discussion that you need to have with your husband, and you need to discuss what are the priorities. Um, if you want your child to learn both German, Spanish, and English, then you will need to be prepared for situations where you might not understand everything what is spoken in your home. This might be alien to start with, but I can assure you that you do, if with the right attitude and a little bit of effort, you do start understanding of that language. I can testify for that myself, who I picked up Punjabi just by listening to it. I'm in no way fluent, but I can listen to a normal conversation, and I do believe that this is possible, because it is also you also have to keep in mind that it's not like you're starting long, deep discussions with a child straight away. It will be quite a few years before the discussions get more complicated. With small children, you can all quite often see just from what is happening, from the context, what is being said. So you don't actually always need to understand the words, but you can see what is happening, and you can understand it from there. So, and like I said, have the discussion. You everybody should always be, all parents should be prepared to say if they feel left out, and then say, well, can you please translate something, or can we do something about this? Because both, when you're raising a bilingual child, like with everything, it's an effort from both the parents, and you need to agree what what you want to do and how you want to do it. And if one parent feels left out or uncomfortable with the situation, then you need to discuss it and come up with a solution. I mean, these are the type of situations that I deal with in my one-to-one coaching for parents. So I'm happy to help anyone who's thinking about these types of situations, because they are all individual. It doesn't only depend on the languages and the amount of exposure. It also depends on relationships. It depends on what type of person you are, if you're more shy or if you're more outspoken, and there's a lot of things that play a role in it. So choose one person, one language. Helen, you speak German, and your husband speak Spanish, and I'm sure you can find the right way. Thank you, Andrea, for your question. I will pick it up once I've gone through the other questions that have been sent in advance. Thank you very much for your comment, for your question. The next one, which is also about a very similar trilingual situation, is from Caroline. Caroline, who speaks English and German, and dad speaks Assamese, and together they speak English, and the environment is English, as I understand it. Again, my recommendation is that you speak German, because if the environment is English, then and you speak English with your husband, English will become a dominant language for your child. He's now a 4-month-old boy, so, and you're worried that you won't be able to be consistent, and you ask, let me just read what you write. Is there a risk involved if I bungle it? I presume you mean that if you sometimes forget, you won't confuse your son even if you switch between German and English. I mean, the risk there is that there won't be enough. If you do that too much and switch more or less to using only English, then of course there won't be enough German exposure. But I would really recommend that you give it a try, and I can see that your mom, your son's grandmother, will also be take active part in this in raising him. So she will be a great help. There are different ways of reminding yourself. For example, what you can do is change as much as possible in your environment to be German. If you listen to podcasts or listen to music, listen to German. Change your phone's operating system to German. Put notes somewhere, German notes. Read German magazines, just so you get more into the German. I know you say that English currently comes more naturally to you, but have a think about it. How important is it that he learns German? And that from your message, I understand it's very important that you want him to learn German. So this is the priority. So this, if you keep that in mind, why am I doing this? Then it is easier to also remember to speak German. There will be, you are asking whether there's a disadvantage to his English. No, there won't be a disadvantage to his English. Even if he doesn't speak English at the um, same level, monolingual, because you can't expect that. Uh, Bilingual child or trilingual child will have exposure to different languages, so you should never compare a monolingual child's language development with a bilingual or trilingual child's language development. It's like comparing apples and pears. What has been found out is in research is that children who speak more than one language catch up. They might um, their vocabulary, for example, might not be as wide if you count only one language, but that you should never do in assessments. For a bilingual child, you should count all the words across the different languages. But at school, bilingual children do pick up, and they catch up. In many cases, they overtake also the monolingual peers, because bilingual children, one advantage that they have what is called a metalinguistic awareness. They understand the concept of language, and that one phenomenon can have different names. So that's one of the many advantages that bilingual children have. So those were the trilingual questions. And again, Caroline, if you have any further questions, just put them in the comments. I'll be happy to pick them up. The last one of the questions that have been sent in advance is from Mike. I will pick up Andreas and Maria's question after this. Thank you for your question, Maria. So Mike, and I must say my heart skipped a beat of joy when I read Mike's question. Mike is from Australia, and he's actually writing on behalf of his daughters and her Norwegian husband's little daughter, because bless him, Mike is Australian, but he's learning Norwegian because that's one of his grandchild's languages. I love it. I love the attitude. What do you say, Mike? As a 60-year-old new speaker of rudimentary Norwegian, are there potential problems? No, there are no problems in you using your rudimentary Norwegian with your granddaughter. Might be prepared that she will very quickly be at your level, and even quicker than that, she will overtake you, and she might start correcting you. But that's fine. That's absolutely okay. She will not, if you're afraid that any mistakes you make, and that she would pick them up. No, she won't. Her dad will be speaking native Norwegian, and that's from where she will get the main input. It is good for children to see the extended family support their minority languages. So I really take my hat off for you, Mike, for doing this. So yes, continue with your Norwegian studies, and once she grows a bit older, she can be your teacher, because kids absolutely love that. They love teaching their parents or grandparents new things, so they can feel that they are kind of in control. So that's lovely. it might also be that your Norwegian might not reach a level where you feel that you can have a longer, deeper discussion when your granddaughter grows up. It is okay for you to switch to English and speak English with her at that point. That's absolutely fine. And then you can continue with the Norwegian as well. So well done, Mike. I hope all grandparents would have that attitude as you have, because that is really helpful for your granddaughter's language learning. Okay, so those were the questions I had sent in. That had been sent in. I still have those waiting to be replied. I have quite a few coming in, so I'm trying to keep up, but there are quite a lot of them coming in. But still do send them. I will answer them in one way or another. Okay, so we go to Andrea. Hi Andrea. You're a native Spanish speaker and your husband speaks Serbian and you speak English amongst yourself. Again, it's a very similar scenario to those that I've just spoken about. 8-month-old baby, congratulations. I do try, and you write that you do try and mostly do speak Spanish. I often catch myself saying half sentences in English and half in Spanish. And you're asking, will that be detrimental to his learning? Your son will be able to keep the two languages apart. That's not a problem. Even if you switch between the two, he will, because he will also have input from others who only speak English or only speak Spanish or Serbian. Oh yeah, so you switch between English and Spanish. It's not detrimental out of the thinking that it would be confusing or that he wouldn't learn it, but what it does, it creates a habit of the majority language coming into the discussion more and more. And what I have seen, especially at the point when a child goes to school, if that's is English, will English be his school language? Because if it is, at that point, usually the school language becomes the dominant language for the child. And children are pragmatic. They do what comes easiest. Never think that a child is spiteful if they don't answer you in the language you speak. It's just that they do what comes easiest. They're pragmatic. But if you have a routine of always speaking Spanish and always sticking to it, then you have a greater success rate. So I would recommend that you try to stick to Spanish as much as possible. I think you've been on since the start, so I gave some ideas on how you can kind of coach yourself to stick to Spanish, because that will be the best way for your son to learn Spanish and also be willing to speak it later. Because if he's used to always being that it's okay, hey, he can, because you switch, then he can switch too. So it might be more difficult for you to get him to express himself in Spanish if he's used to switching to English with you. So that's the reason why I would recommend to at least try to stick to Spanish as much as possible. So if you have any questions about that, just let me know in the comments. And then I have Maria's question. What's the minimum exposure that a 2-year-old should have to the third language? Mommy Greek, Daddy Tunisian German, living in Greece, family language English. Well, you might have heard numbers such as 30% or a third of a child's waking time. There is no research uh, that has been done that has said that this is what is needed because it's not something that is easy to quantify. First of all, it depends on the type of exposure. More important than the quantity, even more important than the quantity of exposure is the quality of it. And so the most effective language exposure is when a child um, is interacting in the language. So the child, I usually say that a child should want and need to use a language. If there is a need, for example, that they speak with someone who only understands that language, that creates a need. Or and the want is if they get positive feedback, if they can see that that their parents or environment, grandparents are happy when they speak a language, that can create a want. Sometimes as parents, we have to play around with this. If there is no obvious, for example, obvious need for a child, like if a child knows that you speak two languages, you would like your child to use language A, but your child wants to use language B. So what can you do for with small children? What I recommend is to introduce, for example, monolingual toys. Introduce a toy that only speak your child's the minority language that you want your child to speak. What I did with my daughter when I wanted to switch from speaking Finnish to speaking Swedish with her, and she refused. She was 5 at that point. What I did was I got a Swedish speaking kitten. If you look for kitten on my website, you will see the post where I explain how a kitten helped me switch the language with my daughter. So back to your question, what's the minimum exposure? There is no simple answer to that. So is it so it's the Arabic that you are wondering about. So you, Maria, you will be speaking Greek, and Dad will be speaking mainly German, I presume. Greece, you're living in Greece, so Greek will come from the environment, and there will be a family language of English, which your child will also pick up. But like I said, there needs to be interaction in the language for your child to start speaking it. Excuse me. So I presume I presume the question is, could Dad speak both German and Arabic? Yes, it is possible. I don't know, Maria, do you speak Arabic at all, or is it only Dad who speaks Arabic? My presumption is that this Arabic exposure needs to come from Dad. In that case, you can, your husband can, for example, dedicate certain days to Arabic, or what is always very efficient, that you visit, if you can have longer stays in a place, where the language is spoken. All right, so Dad is speaking English with your child. So Greek from you, English from Dad, and how to do the Arabic. Okay, so then Dad will have to, he will have to be the person arranging that exposure. Um, English is a language which is much more easy to arrange additional exposure to. So I would sit down and discuss it. How important is it that your child learns Arabic? Because that's from where everything starts. Because what we find important and that we also find time for. So if it's genuinely very important um, that your child learns Arabic, which is a wonderful language, and I would certainly recommend it that you bring it in from when your child is small, like now, because it's a fantastic language to have. So have the discussion. Um, you can ask questions like this, for example: how would your husband feel if in 5 years time your child cannot speak Arabic? How would that feel? And how would that change, like, the dynamic within family reunions and things like that? So when you think into the future, and if you think of a loss of a language, if it's not there, what it means, then it brings it home, and then the you can have more of an impetus to use that language, and to to make sure that the child gets enough exposure. So it doesn't mean that he has to switch to Arabic altogether. But he needs to get into a routine. For example, maybe he could speak Arabic during the weekends and use English during the week. Again, remember that this, Maria, it will then mean that you wouldn't understand everything. But like I said, these are things that you need to discuss together. So that would be my recommendation. But of course, it's every family is unique, and every family, all parents need to define their goals and decide what's important, and how high a priority a language is. If it is a high priority, then you need to do something about it now, because the longer you wait, the more difficult it is. I hope that helped. Maria, please feel free to comment with further questions. And then we have Liana. Liana's question. Welcome, Liana. How does it work when you're homeschooling? Which language do you teach? Mom Portuguese, dad Spanish, living in USA. So you are homeschooling, Liana, and are you in charge of it? So you are speaking you are speaking Portuguese. So you are wondering how to bring in the Spanish, or which language do you teach? I mean, I would say when it comes to homeschooling, it's very important that you get the information across. So if you could be take part in it. So you would do part in Portuguese and dad would do some part in Spanish. That's absolutely fine. So I know several families who do exactly this. So they do homeschooling, but each parent does the homeschooling in their own language. Of course, it's a little bit more work, because you need to find all the resources in different languages, but this is how it can be done, and as I understand it, has been very effective as well. Okay, I see a comment from Maria. You agreed having these 3 languages. Dominant language is Greek. and she prefers using Greek words. Yes, children do that because when they learn something and they find easier, so they start using it. But we as parents shouldn't be intimidated or offended by that. That's just how it works with kids. They're pragmatic and they choose whatever comes easiest. We just need to stick to our languages, use them, be proud of them. Remember that it's also important to pass on the attitude to your languages, that you love them, and that you do not shy away from using them, and show that that's a part of your heritage, part of you, part of her, because uh, so what I'm trying to say is that you as parents are in charge of the languages you speak, and if you consistently speak a language, your child will pick it up. And of course she's learning Greek and she uses it, but just accept that. For example, let's say in a situation if she goes to daycare or and then comes back and using Greek words because that's what she has been immersed in all day, that's completely natural. So if she then wants to say something in Greek to you, you do understand. Don't I never recommend not to understand a child when a child communicates. Do understand it, but what you can do is then you repeat, um, use the words that she used in Greek, use the word in so he should use the word in Arabic or English or whichever ever language he's using at that point. So she's probably spent more time with you, Maria, so that's why it has become more and more dominant for her, and that she's only 2. It's fine. A child will usually pick up a mother if depending on who the child spends more time with, that's the language that comes first. So she will pick up English as well, and if your husband has got the patience, then she will also pick up Arabic. Do involve extended family in helping with the Arabic exposure. Um, Even with small children, myself, I'm in constant contact with my 1.5-year-old grandson, who I speak Swedish with, and I speak Swedish with him over the phone. He doesn't speak much yet, but still, I keep on speaking Swedish with him. So that's just a way extended family, grandparents can help. I wish you all the best of luck, Maria. I'm sure you can do it. And if you need further help, then get in touch. We'll see if we can do some individual coaching. So those were the questions for tonight. Thank you very much for listening, and keep those questions coming in. I love how many families are choosing the path of being raising bilingual or multilingual children. It's fantastic because that's a real asset in our world. Thank you very much. Keep those questions coming, and please click on notifications for other live videos so you can follow the next ones as well. Thank you very much. Take care.